Kia ora and welcome to Ataloss. My name's Timothy Giles and I'm a funeral celebrant. The gift of that is that it brings me into relationship with some people who have some insights that this podcast is created to share. Insights on living fully with grief. Miri Toms. Kia ora. No, mai. We met at your son's grave.
Yeah, we did.
Here's what stood out for me. Swan plants that are, okay, admittedly I'm not a very tall man, but I think they're about my height. And a mass of flowers in his grave, right? They are. That you planted. Mm-hmm. I want to talk more about them, but here's what I noticed. A badge that said 18 in that swan plant.
Yeah.
Because it had been his birthday recently.
Yeah, 10th of June. He turned 18. Yeah. And all of his friends came and we drank champagne, and one of his friends' mum brought along a wee badge and pinned it on the swan plant tree that it's grown into. Yeah.
And that was the second birthday that you've had by his graveside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's interesting that you smile when you talked about all his friends coming and that.
Yeah. One of his friends' mums, who's a very good friend of mine, brought a big birthday cake, and the family all came, and it was nice.
When you suggested to me that we meet in the cemetery, I thought, well, that's a bit grim, isn't it? You know, it's a bit grim.
Yeah, it is a bit hard to get people there.
Why do you want to get people there?
It's where I am, you know. It's where I'm at, and if people want to see me, that's where I am. So the thing that I have done and I wanted to do was to make the cemetery a place that you would want to come. When I chose the plot, when we chose Felix's resting place, I said to Alistair, who's the general manager of Puriwa, I said to him, I'm going to plant all these surrounding graves. He's in the old part, so, you know, there's graves from 1908. And nobody's really looking after them. And so I've just been planting flowers in the graves. And I think leading up to his first anniversary, which was under level 4 lockdown conditions, I just started planting more and more. Well, everyone was buying toilet paper and hand sanitizer. I was buying carloads of potted colour. Every morning I'd take another bag of potted colour with this little dog Tui, and we'd plant some more flowers in the garden. And then leading up to that, I made a video, an experience of Felix's grave and the surrounding gardens, because I knew that people wouldn't be able to come under those conditions or would choose not to, and so I just thought, well, I can offer an experience of where Felix is, and I put this video up online on the first anniversary of his passing.
And you have changed, Vera. You said to me, we're in, what is it, section X, row something, and you know, I've spent a bit of time in cemeteries, and I'm like, I don't. What? And you're like, you won't miss it, but I didn't miss it because it's an explosion of, and I don't know what the collective noun for a group of planted flowers is, but an exuberance of flowers. I mean, it's become a thing now for you. This planting and these flowers, because it's quite an extensive area. I look at this one woman it's gone from this one Felix's resting place and spread on your own.
I up until his birthday, I was doing it by myself. Yeah. I just it was a guerrilla planting thing. I just sort of sprinkle seeds, and and hope. And if they didn't take, then I'd put in some potted colour and, and I guess it just depended how I felt, when I dropped Daisy off at school, I would go to the garden centre and just buy flower plants and go and plant them. And, I just sort of ended up going out further and further in a circle radiating out from Felix. And then the flowers started dying, and so I started collecting up the seeds. And then when Christmas came, I packaged them up like gifts and gave them to my family. I said, please plant some seeds, plant some flowers from Felix. And then on New Year's Day, I painted a mandala on the side of the batch, a big mural mandala. And then I realised, actually, that's what I'm doing. I'm making a giant global, well, it's become global, a giant garden mandala. So, for packaging up the seeds from Felix for other people to make gardens themselves so that they can grow flowers, so that they can get some sort of happiness in the moment that flowers can give.
The momentary thing was interesting to me because when we met there, you said, pick some flowers. But I've been taught not to pick the flowers.
I think it's been called disruptive. But it's flowers, I mean, if I stop watering them, they'll be gone, and bringing life to the cemetery, before Felix got there, these old graves, they were just concrete and sprayed out and really dead looking, and now they're not. Now they're just absolutely beautiful with gorgeous wildflowers growing in front of these incredibly beautifully sculpted headstones from a bygone era, from a long, long time ago. These beautiful
a century
names.
And more.
Yes, yeah.
And they are in disrepair, a lot of them. No one's really cared for a long time.
No, well, they're beautiful still.
Well, they're more beautiful now.
Yeah.
And you brought flowers with you today?
Yeah. So I always tell people to pick the flowers, even though we've been raised to be good people and not pick the flowers for everyone. It's just like, well, if you don't pick these flowers, the plants will go to seed and they'll die. And if you pick the flowers, then the plants will actually make more flowers. Yeah, and so, whoever does come to meet me at the cemetery, I usually almost always send them home with a little posy. And that kind of, it sort of extends the life of the visit and perhaps the life of Felix a little bit too.
A lot, I would say. I'll tell you a story about what happened with the first bunch of flowers that you gave me. So you met me when we spent a couple of hours together, and you gifted me a little small milk bottle or little juice bottle with flowers.
It was a caper jar.
A caper jar, was it? Okay. Well, that's interesting because I went straight to my daughter's work, and she loves capers. When she was a little girl and other kids wanted a Kit Kat, she wanted a jar of capers. Right? So I walked into the wine bar that she has, and it was, late afternoon by then, I think, and two men, probably early 60s, having a bottle of wine and a ketchup. And as we're walking in, they commented on the flowers. And, stop and join us for a minute, talk about the flowers. Okay, put the flowers down on the table. We did the introductions, had a wee conversation, and then they commented again on the flowers. I said, would you like to know the story? One man sat back in his chair and grinned and said, that is beautiful.
Oh, that's really nice.
The other man sat forward, crossed his arms and rested his elbows on the table. And his eyes grew red. And he said to me, this is my worst nightmare. He has a teenage daughter. Two, he told me. I didn't know this man. One who is having significant challenges in her life, and he is afraid. And Then these two men got into this. They're old mates, bestest mates of decades. And so his mate leant into the conversation and said, "You've done really well in the last few months, and here's where she's going." And it was interesting, and he sat back and he said, "Yes, and she is in a good place." But he didn't look at me or his mate, he looked at the flowers and he said, "But I'm so afraid." And it was, how do you feel that there was all about those flowers? I then went to go and see my daughter, who had actually taken the flowers to, but I had to leave them at the table, right? That was a gift of flowers from Felix. How do you feel about that story?
About that interaction between those friends.
But prompted by your flowers. They're having
Yeah, totally. I think that's wonderful that they were able to suddenly explore what was happening for this man with his daughter, and that the grief around his fear, because it is your worst nightmare. It really truly is your worst nightmare that so many parents are living with at the moment. The fear that this could happen, and when it does happen, it quite truly is nothing short of horrific, and it is your worst nightmare, and you have to carry on.
Where was the point at which you think was your darkest point? Is this an okay conversation to have, or is that too grim?
I think that this conversation is a lot to... The purpose of it for me is to show anyone else that is in my situation that it is possible to live through it, because it certainly does not feel like it. It certainly does not feel like it's something that is survivable at all, by any means. Yeah.
You are how long in?
Almost 18 months, almost a year and a half. Yeah, just shy of a year and a half.
Has it always felt survivable?
No. As a parent, you've got one job, and that's to keep your child alive, and I failed, and that's just the terror and the dread around that is indescribable.
Terror and dread. That become part of your daily existence?
Yeah, constant.
What did you see as your options being?
Well, I knew I had to keep breathing for Daisy, for Felix's sister. And I looked for other parents who had lost children to see how it could be done, because I just couldn't possibly believe that you could survive that as a parent, to survive the loss of your beautiful, wonderful, incredible, strong, clever, funny, amazing young man, to just suddenly not be there.
You didn't think it was survivable?
No.
You make it sound like, of course not. That no is, well, of course not.
No, absolutely not. No, God, no. I mean, but obviously there was evidence that it could be survivable, and I had to figure that one out. But that's the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, is to figure out how to live without Felix. I had friends that were just incredible. One in particular, she came up from Wellington when she heard, and she flew up from Wellington, and she stayed in a hotel, and she came round to my house every single day, and she organised everyone, and she made sure that they ate, and she physically put food in my mouth, and actually put a pump bottle into my mouth, and made sure that I kept eating and drinking and breathing to get through to the funeral. And then after that, she would come up every month or 2 months and just spend 3 days just taking care of my husband taking care of my daughter and walking the dog and, yeah.
As you're talking, you are wiping a tissue across your eyes.
That's what the funny sound is, yeah.
But
Yeah.
but you're comfortable with that. So often people get tearful and they're like, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry, excuse me. You're not doing that. You're just talking and you're wiping your tears.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's very sad.
But there's a comfort with you about it. You live with it. It's...
Oh, yeah, it's always there. It never goes away.
Is it survivable now, though?
To cry about Felix. Now, I think that you get stronger. It never gets better. It never gets easier. You just get stronger and more able to do the day. Yeah.
What strength? What's the strength that makes that enables you? Can you describe that strength to me? Like, what is it you get stronger at? The breathing, the focusing on your daughter. What is it?
I guess you get stronger at the breathing and the living, and you can actually, you get to a point where you can go to the supermarket and you can cook the dinner, and and those things aren't quite as horrible without Felix. They're necessary in order that Daisy can carry on.
The relationships that remain. How are they?
Oh, look, we...
Who's we?
My husband, who is Felix's dad, and my daughter, who is Felix's sister. I was incredibly lucky that my husband was able to carry on working, and he has actually thrived. In fact, he threw himself into work, and some of the projects that he's working on, the shows that he's working on, have been winning awards. I mean, that is extraordinary that he has had that strength to get up and go to work and do his best work, and it's good. yeah, and that is such a blessing that he's that personality, because I'm not. I mean, if he was doing what I was doing, then the whole thing would have fallen apart. And
so that relationship has not fallen apart, and I would have thought it would have been the one most stretched and taxed. But it hasn't fallen apart. No. Is it a surprise?
I'm not surprised by anything anymore. Yeah.
And how are you going as a mum now?
I think things are getting better. Daisy talks to me now in a nice voice.
No, it's not possible. She's a teenager. That's not allowed, is it? I'm sure that's against the rules.
Oh, look, she was really, really angry. Of course, she was really, really angry. And I, as a mum, I had to bear witness to that anger. I had to take that anger and accept the anger from her. Yeah. And that was hard, but I can't imagine how horrible things must have been for Daisy, having lost her brother, a partner in crime, and then her mum can't get out of bed. She's extraordinary. She's amazing. She is strong and beautiful. And she's getting good grades. I did not, I said to her, look, if you just show up, that's enough, just show up. Yeah.
A couple of seconds ago, you had a big smile on your face when you were saying she's amazing and strong. She's getting good grades. Not that long ago, that smile, that feeling was utterly inconceivable to you.
Yeah.
When did it start to become possible? Was there a time? Was it is there something that helps get to that point? Because that's a good feeling, right? That's a part of life that you are interested in being in. See, that's not just survivability, is it? That's joy.
Yeah, no, it is. It's wonderful to see that she's, she's surviving, but sometimes she's actually thriving, and that's really cool. And there was a point. I was talking to a friend, and I just noticed it, and so I mentioned it to her. It's just like, you know what? Actually, I don't feel like I want to kill myself anymore. I feel like I do want to stick around and see what Daisy does. Yeah. And so, I do my best for her and support her, and if I can't do anything else, then it's okay. As long as I'm breathing, I think that's better than not breathing for Daisy, and everything is for her, really.
There's so much more in this conversation, and there's so much more about the garden, the flowers from Felix, and what you're doing, and people around the world who are getting seeds, people who are donating things to you, and like if someone's interested in this, then flowers from Felix, Purua Cemetery, you can go and find out about that. Here's what I've got out of the conversation, and I really admire that you will talk about that loss of the desire to continue. That ability to speak to that and then to say, I didn't want to anymore. I find beautiful, and I find the very simplicity of your way. I just tried to breathe and keep going, and you found that focus. And to look on the whānau around you and go, well done, husband, well done, daughter. And there's a sense of wonder in there for you. And it sounds like a good team unit. Chief of Grieving, Miri. You're a very private person. I'm very surprised that we've ended up having this conversation, because you are such a private person. So in the conclusion of why you put yourself into a position of discomfort, you're the first person I've seen cross-legged on the little chair there, huggling into your snuggly jacket like a blankie. Right? You're not here because you want to be here.
No, it's not something I've ever done before.
What is it that you want to create from this conversation? So in conclusion.
I just think that there is joy and wonder to be had in the immediacy of the present, and when you're deep in grief, there are things that can bring you back to your physicality, and the flowers for me did that for me, and I spent lots of time observing their life cycles and looking at the flowers and realizing that that flower is only that beautiful for that moment in time, and you get to experience it. And so it is very symbolic of the present, but within that flower there is a seed. that will grow more flowers, and that can happen forever and ever. And so the flowers also symbolise eternity. And I think just the sheer wonder and surprise that the flowers kept flowering even though the world had ended. The sun kept coming up and the flowers kept flowering, and I just think it's really important that people use whatever it takes to just take that moment in the present and not think about the past or the future, and just reconnect with the now and the beauty. And if I can do that by sending anyone a packet of flower seeds from Felix, then I'll gladly do that. And you can grow your own flowers, and it's free. It's just a cup of water every day in a little flower pot. And you can have a little bit of joy that makes a really, really horrific situation just a teeny tiny bit better, maybe.
And survivable.
Well, yeah. I did. I survived.
This is an episode in a series called Ataloss of Podcasts. My name's Timothy Giles. If you would like to contribute to any of these conversations or give feedback, then my email, Timothy Giles, my email is tg@ataloss.co.nz.